Welcome to the Natural Resources Committee meeting in the Senate. At this time, I'm going to ask Representative Harbin to lead us in a word of prayer. What number are you?
Number 15, sir. All right, let's pray. Lord, we thank you for this day. Thank you for the beautiful day you've given us and for life itself. We ask, oh Father, that you would give us wisdom, discernment as we deal with the affairs of the state of Georgia and representing the people of Georgia. Thank you for your grace and mercy for us. Give us wisdom, oh Lord. We thank you. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. All right, today we have some special guests with us, and we're delighted that they are here. Our new commissioner, Raven, where you at? Come up. We blessed to have him with us today, and he's going to give us a few words of wisdom and knowledge, and then he's also going to introduce some of his staff.
He just set the bar high when he said the wisdom and knowledge.
Yeah.
Anyway, maybe I can try to. I just wanted to take just a few minutes and say that I am Walter Raven, as the chairman said, and delighted to serve in the role as the commissioner of the Department of Natural Resources. The chairman has asked we'll come back and talk about our 4 divisions at maybe the next committee meeting. I would love to highlight the work of the men and women of the Wildlife Resources Division, the State Parks Historic Sites Division, Coastal Resources Division, and then many of you are very familiar with our Law Enforcement Division. And I say you're very familiar. Hopefully you're not real familiar with the Law Enforcement Division, but know that we have one. I'll let Director Cowan come up and introduce himself in just a minute if that's the will of the chairman. But with me today, I have Deputy Commissioners Thomas Bernard, who many of you know
Stand
as
up.
Colonel Bernard.
Let's see you. It ain't every day we see you in a suit.
That's right. And then I also have Deputy Commissioner Trevor Santos
Stand up.
with us today.
All right.
And then to introduce the real boss that keeps all 3 of us straight, I have our Director of Administrative Services, Artisha Gaston, with us.
Thank you, ma'am.
You didn't have to tell her to stand up. She already stood up. But with that, like I said, delighted to work with the committee. Very proud of the work that you do and the way that you support the Department of Natural Resources. And happy to answer any questions at this time and look forward to coming back in the future.
We want to thank you for the service y'all give the great people of the great state of Georgia. And anyone have questions? What number are you?
10.
Senator Goodman.
I just want to say publicly I appreciate the engagement that y'all have, when we call and have issues or things that we want to talk about, the way you engage with us and look at it. And I really appreciate that. You don't have to wait for a return call very long if you miss you. And, it's nice and we appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I'm Jeff Cowan. I'm the new director of the Environmental Protection Division. About 6 months, but I've been with DNR in several roles for about 34 years, so glad to be here with y'all. At EPD, you will probably see me or my Deputy Director, John Eunice, who's at the airport going to Washington to testify about a bill that will help us in air quality requirements, hopefully lessen them. We have my Director of Policy and Governmental Affairs, Katie Hegarty, is back here. Mr. Chairman, you want to stand up? And then I have in the air protection, James Boylan, and if you want us to come present sometime, I'll be glad to.
Okay.
Our water protection branch is Anya Trzynski. I pronounce it wrong every time, but she's a brilliant water person. And then in land protection, I have Chuck Mueller. Our Director of District Operations is Jim Cooley, and we have a lab director, Mark Talbert, and we'd be glad to come talk to y'all. We appreciate working with y'all every day. So anything you need, Commissioner, I'd be happy to, Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. All right. We're going to be moving right along. We got 4 bills today, and we have 3 bills we're going to hear, and then we have one that's just a hearing. We're going to start at the bottom of the sheet at House Bill 436. Representative Corbett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, I bring before you House Bill 436, LC 510312. Does everybody have that version?
All right.
Okay.
Repeat that one more time.
LC 510312.
Yep.
All right, well, thank you again for allowing me to go. I've got another meeting going on, so I appreciate that, and I will make sure Friday that we return that favor, so thank you.
Thank you, sir.
We heard this bill in this committee last year. We passed it out, and it's one of those that got hung up and didn't make it across the finish line, so we're back with it again this year. I was asked by Chair Lady Smith to take a look, get with EPD and look at the fine fee structure as far as it related to surface mining. I worked with EPD, and we come up with this and found this code section where someone willfully misrepresents a fact in any matter required by this part who willfully gives false information, an application report. The fee that was $1,000 a day, and then each day was a non-compliance, was a separate offense. We raised that. All we're doing with this bill is raising that to $10,000. And talking to EPD, they can't remember when the last time this was updated. Some of them has been there since back in the 60s. It's not been updated since then. So that's what we're doing with the bill. I know last year we had a question, what if I dig a bar pit and I don't get a permit, am I going to get fined? And I checked with EPD after the meeting and said, no, it's got to be a 5-acre requirement for a bar pit. If anything under that, you don't have to have the permit, is what I was told last year. So it wouldn't affect you if you digging a bar pit on your farm for dirt to fill in holes somewhere.
Okay. Good bill. Any questions? Who is it? Senator Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Corbett, pleasure to see you. I've got the same concerns I had last year. You said that they were under 5 acres. What concerns me is, and maybe the commissioner can elaborate on this, what if somebody has 100 acres? And one side of their property they're digging, and the other side of the property they're digging on it, and ultimately it adds up to more than 5 acres. Are they required to go get a permit then from the commissioner?
I'm not sure if I could phone a friend if he's still back there. Chairman? Yes, I could.
Come forward.
I would appreciate some help. Can I phone a friend?
You got a friend?
Yeah, I got one.
Yes, sir. If it goes beyond that limit, we do need a permit, but we are here to work with folks. This bill talks about a willful violation. That's not what we look at. Some folks will dig a bar pit and we come to them and help them get the permits. That's the first thing we do, is we're a help partner agency to make sure they get the appropriate permits.
And this gives a discretion. It doesn't have to be 10,000. It's up to 10,000. So it's not automatic. So it's at their discretion.
Okay.
So.
And it's deputy commissioner, right?
It's the director.
Director of the EPD.
Environmental
Okay.
Protection, yes, sir.
Sir, how many of these fines do you think the EPD dishes out on a yearly basis?
This is a willful. We normally do on a civil basis first, where you give a notice of violation and you progress to a consent agreement and on up. Not a lot. Most people are very compliant. The mining industry has a good history with us and a good compliance record. It's not me. This is just the folks that just willfully will not do it. And as the chairman said, I think this was enacted, the $1,000 a day was in the original bill date of 1969.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Chairman.
And talking with the representative for the mining industry, is good with this as well.
Senator Sims.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Maybe I missed something, but in the bill, I didn't see any language about acreage. So until Senator. Yeah, section 1247. I don't see that. This is just Georgia. Okay. Okay, you just printed it off. It's not there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Any other questions? What's the wish of the committee?
I thought she had. Did you have a question or are you making a motion?
Question, I was trying to find out, what is the current
Hold on.
law now? You know, it's just up
The
to-
current law is
Remind-
up to $1,000 now.
Up to $1,000
We're raising
right
it to
now.
10,000.
You got it.
And that's at your discretion. It doesn't have to be 10.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
Senator Nikki. Oh, you, Seal.
Did you have a question? I was going to make a motion.
No, Mr. Chairman, I didn't have a question. I was just representing the city
Okay.
of Lamont.
Mr. Chairman, if no further questions, I'd like to make a motion to pass House Bill 436, LC 510312.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? I think you won.
Thank you. And if you can get these others out, we having lunch over at the Rural Caucus, fried chicken, black-eyed peas, banana pudding. Y'all come on.
After the fact, man. After the fact.
John, tell them where I'm at.
All right, Representative Petrie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thought I was going to be delayed there for a minute. Knowing you as I do, somebody offers you fried chicken, I thought I was going
We
to
might,
have to wait a little longer.
we might table your bill, yeah. In other words, you better be pretty quick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bring to you a bill today, as Chairman before me just said, Chairman Corbett, this bill was passed by this body and died on sine die, just never completed it. Last year, this is substitute House Bill 244. It is Chairman LC 442622S. If everybody has that before you. And so again, I'll try to be as brief as I can. This is an update to our oyster, our shellfish mariculture bill that passed in 2019. I carried that measure in 2019. That was House Bill 501, where we created the ability to farm oysters in the subtidal zone on the Georgia coast. And that's really where this began. And as we go through, you'll see a couple of amendments as it worked through the House and the Senate that I'll speak to. In Section 1 and 2, you're dealing with very simple date changes that really don't require much comment. Section 3 is literally just a typo fix in the statute where W and X were alluded to, and it should be a Y and a Z. You'll see that on line 40, where we really get into some changes statutorily on Section 4. This was an amendment on the House side relating to predator management. So as everyone here in this body knows well, we continue to struggle with quail and turkey nest predation in this state because we don't have natural predators anymore for a lot of our animals that are preying upon our nest. And so we currently allow for electronically calling for coyotes in this state, but not for bobcat and fox. So this would, as you'll see on lines 55 through 57, allow electronic calls to be used for hunting in season, bobcat and fox. Okay, and that is Section 4. And Mr. Chairman, if there's any questions as I go through, glad to ask them, or we can wait till the end. On Section 5 is really where the measure began as it was initiated in the House, and that is as we relate to seafood dealer licenses. And so currently seafood dealers have to report their activity to the state on a regular basis so that we know how much the fishery that we're utilizing. And we have folks that are not reporting their non-activity, if that makes sense. So that's always been, and if you look line 67 through 70, so it's always been the department's longstanding practice that every seafood dealer had to report on a regular basis. But some people have decided that if they have no activity, they don't need to report that. So obviously, that creates a conundrum for the department, who is here today if we need to speak to them, because they don't know whether somebody has had no activity or if they simply aren't reporting. So what this section does on Section 5 is simply make it clear that they have to report, and even if they have non-activity, they have to report that non-activity. if that makes sense, Mr. Chairman. And there are some things you might want to emphasize the importance of this. We have certain fisheries that have use it or lose it provisions. So, for example, with blue crab and shellfish, if you have someone who's licensed and they're not crabbing, that's important. We know that because there's somebody else out there that could be crabbing. So this is important for us to manage the fishery, and that is Section 5. On Section 6, Mr. Chairman, we're dealing with the definition of a cage for oyster mariculture. So I'll use the term technology regarding raising oysters has changed somewhat. We envisioned larger cages, and we still have larger cages, but currently a lot of our new oyster farmers are using small cages set inside larger cages. So it's a larger cage with a multitude of smaller cages. And so we're just we're changing the definition of what a cage is to include those larger outer units which hold smaller units inside, if that makes sense. That's Section 6. Section 7, Mr. Chairman, relates to 7 and 8 really relate to allowing the department more discretion rather than to get into too much detail, more discretion and who they have to revoke permits on. So there are currently the language says that, you'll see on line 102, a master harvester permit shall not be issued. And rather than shall, we're changing that to may be denied to persons who have violated some part of this code section. Well, that could be something like exceeding your creel limit on trout. So we don't want to see people who have, I think, we don't want to see folks that have a viable business and are hiring people that might be unable to do that because of a violation that may be certainly less important than others to the department. So what we do here is give the department the ability to make that decision. We're giving them discretion. Likewise, in Section 8, you're going to see the same thing as it relates to the individuals that work under the master harvester. So we refers here in this part to harvesters. So y'all can probably imagine it's very difficult to find a workforce on shrimp boats and crabbing and all of these different fisheries. And so we have that same situation. You'll see in lines 126 to 130. And actually on line 122, we have the shall and the may thing. The current statute says that any person convicted of violating any provision of this article shall be revoked, and we change that to may. Again, so the same scenario, if you have somebody that works for you in the fishery that we're alluding to here, and one of those employees violates a certain provision of, I'll use again the example of exceeding a creel limit, the language now requires that their ability to do that be revoked. The department believes that is too draconian and would like to give them the ability to, the department the ability to make that decision based on the violation, if that makes sense, Mr. Chairman. And so that is Section 8. Section 9 eliminates the cage fee, as we discussed last year. In the original bill in 501, we put a $1 fee per cage. The intention was never to raise money. The goal there was to just pay for the department's work in putting tags on these cages. Because of what I described earlier with the definition of a cage, where you may have a multitude, you may have 10 times the number of cages now in one cage. This was never anticipated to be a real burden on our new oyster growers. And so we're just eliminating that fee, and the harvester, the mariculture farmer now is going to be handling their own tags. So we eliminate that. And then finally, on Section 11, this bill would be approved upon its approval by the governor, would be effective upon approval by the governor. Mr. Chairman, that's as fast as I can go through there. I know it's a lot of information. It's the same information you took up last year. And I'm glad to answer any questions, and I'm sure if there's questions I can't answer, the department can help me.
Going back to Section 4, the bobcat and the fox,
Yes, sir.
is the sound different to call?
I'm not sure. I don't use
I mean, can you give us an example of the call?
You want me to try it? Y'all ready? Not going to do that, Mr. Chairman, but maybe one night after a few vodka tonics.
All
Next
right.
time we're together eating oysters, I might try that.
All right, buddy. Senator Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative, is the reason why you put Section 4 in here is so people in North Georgia can have something to latch on to in your bill, since we don't always understand what's going on down there on the coast?
It could be, my friend. I'll tell you, it came from, it was an amendment offered by Chairman Rhodes in our Game Fishing Parks Committee.
Well, I'm glad to see a little bit of freedom in the
He is
legislation.
from more your way. He's not a coastal boy like myself either.
But Representative, I have another question on Section 5. Help me understand. I mean, I certainly understand the tragedy of a commons, right? We only have so many resources to go around.
That's right.
But if someone's not participating in their license, why should they have to report if other people are reporting? The Department of Natural Resources should know, hey, we've got this much fish coming out. It just seems a little bit overburdensome, I think, especially like if you got an old timer with a license who may not feel like fishing.
Yeah, so the licenses, when they get a license, the deal is, and they know from the outset, this is a requirement of holding a license. You have to report to the department, because the department, obviously, for all of our interest, has a real investment in knowing what the state the fishery's in. So how much shrimp is coming out of the river? How many crab? How much, how much weight, pounds of crabs and clams, whatever it might be, so that the department has to know what's coming out. And so it historically has never been an issue. And it isn't kind of routinely an issue, but there are certain people that feel like, well, I hadn't done anything, so I don't have to report that. The problem is the department doesn't know whether they have or haven't. And again, I mentioned earlier, you do have some use it or lose it provisions. So some of those licenses, again, where the fisherman knows well in advance, if you're not out crabbing, we're gonna make sure that somebody else is, because the public wants Georgia wild, products. And that's something I preach constantly up here, Georgia wild shrimp. And by the way, if you get started on that, I could talk all day about the tragedy that's going on with Georgia shrimp right now with dumping from foreign countries. But at any rate, so the department needs to know what's coming out of the river and who's utilizing those licenses, because if not, someone else needs to be. And there are those that just aren't using their license and may allow someone else to, benefit from fishing that resource.
Thank you.
Thank you for the good question.
Going back to the bobcat and fox, seriously though, I'm glad we're doing this, because our quail numbers are down.
Yes, sir.
And we need anything we can do to help promote
Yes, sir.
wild quail. Anyway, any kind of way. I
Chairman, we have an
appreciate that.
abundance of predators today because of the way society has changed, and also because of the land and a lot of times the dense stands, encourage more predators on a track, and so it's a real issue.
A fisherman that's not using their permit, how long do they have before we would
I don't know the answer to that, Chairman. The department, I'm certain, could answer that.
Do we have a time limit?
I'm not certain of that, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Trevor.
So, Mr. Chairman, on the reporting, it's been a longstanding practice of the department. This would simply codify. As far as the permit goes, I think it's something that the department would be willing to work with the permittee. As far as a timeline, I don't know that we have something, but I'm happy to get that information to you. But again, we want to ensure that someone's just not withholding the information. So rather than just not reporting at all, we'd like to see just a report of non-activity from the permittee.
Okay. All right. Senator Steele.
Chairman, good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you, my friend.
Trevor Glider sitting up there. Could you go to line 154, please, in the bill? I remember this came up last year, and I'm only asking for clarification. On all intertidal gear shall be exempt from the requirements of this code section, section 9. If they're exempt there, where, do you know where they fall under? I'm not trying to, it's not a trick question. I just want to make sure it's covered somewhere.
So really having the tagging on the cages is simply in case that those cages float away, we can ultimately find the rightful owner. With the intertidal gear, it's typically a clamshell bag which is buried in the mud, and they're not at risk of floating away. So that's why they would be exempt, whereas the cages have a higher likelihood of floating away and us being able to tie that cage back to the rightful owner.
Got it. Thank you. And then, Chairman, just as a follow-up to the Georgia wild shrimp question, if you're greedy about shrimp, does that make you a selfish shellfish?
Pretty much.
Okay, just thank you.
Senator Harbin.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Question, in line 67, 68, 69, and 70, this reporting issue is totally based upon trust because you can't be there to know what's going on. My question is that if you didn't catch anything, do I need to tell you I didn't catch anything? Because you're basing this on trust anyhow. And my question is it more, how do I say, overreach, if you will? I didn't do anything, but I still have to tell you I didn't do anything. Could they not just not report, that which means they did not have anything, and then report when they do have something? That just seems to be a more common sense approach to what goes on rather than requiring an activity for no activity. That's just a thought.
Let me Bruce.
So again, just ensuring that those that are utilizing the licenses and permits are still active in what they're doing, it allows us to ensure that the fishery is not being overfished. But, I don't want to talk about the good actors versus the bad actors out there, but there are certainly going to be bad actors that are not reporting and simply just withholding information. So again, it's a longstanding practice of the department. This would put it in law to say if you've got a license, we would like to know if you had any catch, and if not, simply just let us know that there was no activity on that license.
How many total licenses are there across the state that we deal with?
Oh, I don't have an answer for you on that right now. I'd be happy to get that information for you.
I'm just saying what we're requiring is all of those people to do a no activity, if you will, and just common sense to me says, if you did it, let me know. If you didn't do it, I'm going to assume you didn't know, because we're basing this on trust anyhow, and it's only as good as the person that's putting the information in. So I'm not being derogatory, but I'm just, common sense tells you a little bit, and that's the only reason I was asking the question.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, if I could,
Yep.
we're just speaking to the Deputy
Let's
Commissioner.
move right along
So
here now.
it's the answer. I was trying to get the answer for the senator, and it looks like it's only a couple of hundred, because we're talking about commercial fishing. Remember, none of this is recreational. We're talking about a commercial fishing license. So a couple of hundred, Commissioner. Okay. So that was the answer. I was trying to get that for you.
Okay.
Senator Goodman.
So it's a small number.
I was just going to ask the question, Mr. Chairman. So I'm a member of a co-op. We have 177 farmers in our co-op, and we have to report weekly what our pesticide applications are, because we're all marketing under the same label. And even if we don't apply any kind of plant protection products, we still have to go in and every week and say, no application this week. And the reason and I was on the board for a long time of our co-op, and actually till I got elected to the Senate, but one of the reasons that we do that is because we find out that the people that don't report, what'll happen is it'll get away from you. Right. And so you don't know if someone's simply not reporting or if they're really not spraying anything. You know what I mean? And so I would imagine that's kind of the way y'all are sort of looking at this as well, aren't you?
Yes, sir. Senator, that's a great point. And just to speak to it from a guy that lives on the coast and grew up down there fishing and still do a lot of it. I will tell you this. I think what people that live down on the coast want is to know that we're managing that fishery. And so I want the department to know how much of the fishery is being utilized by the commercial sector when we have a whole lot of recreational fishermen in Georgia as well. So I think it helps us if the department's going to be able to, it helps us to know what the condition that fishery is in, how much of it's being utilized. It is a resource for the people. How much of it is being utilized. And that's important because remember, the department is making decisions about creel limits and everything else and on seasons and how much you can take. Well, that should be based on real, accurate data, not just guesstimating or having it plus or minus. And so to me, that's really why I felt like it made sense when this obviously was an issue from the department, not from, this came from the department. But that's why it made sense to me, is because managing that resource is so important to all of us, so that we have that resource, forever. And it should be based on data, it should be based on science.
Senator Ramon?
Just to make a comment, to me, it makes sense. I'm sure, reporting, if no activities, you can probably mark one, no activities as I'm not sure reporting is probably electronically, probably don't take that much time either,
Yeah, good point, Senator. And is this a monthly requirement? So it's a monthly an email?
An email.
So it's like an email once a month to say, hey, we didn't fish this month because the boat was broke down or what have you.
Or whatever it is, as long as it's nothing, probably don't even take much time. Or
yes, sir. My understanding is it's not burdensome. None of my fishermen, shrimpers and anything else, have mentioned this as a burden on them. And they mention a lot of stuff to me. It's not one that's come to my attention. Other things have.
Thank you, Representative. All right, Senate again.
Move do pass on LC 442622S.
Second.
We got a second. Any other questions? Hearing none. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? You got no?
He didn't just have enough stuff in North Georgia.
All right. Thank you.
I didn't win him over with the Bobcat call, Mr.
I
Chairman.
know.
If you had done the call, I think you'd got it.
Thanks to all of you. I appreciate you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
All right, moving right along, we're going to have just a real short hearing on a bill next, and we got the great rules chairman, the greatest rules chairman in the state of Georgia.
We're not going to vote this. We're not going to vote on it.
That's going to present his hearing only bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right, let me give y'all a quick background on.
Give us the LC number.
All right, so we're working Senate Bill 408, working off of LC 570038.
Thanks, sir.
There is no substitutes at this moment. But this all started with a sophomore in high school in my home county had emailed a local county commissioner, and basically he had been doing a lot of research around the issue of public water and fluoridation, specifically within Coweta County. And he even took it as far as he went out to one of our reservoirs, the B.T. Brown Reservoir, with his father, and toured that plant just to get a little better idea of how fluoride was being placed in the water. And then he came to learn that that the fluoride was being provided by Belgium, a company in Belgium, so a foreign company. And Belgium, to my knowledge, doesn't even require fluoride in their own water. And so he, after reaching out to the county commissioner, he then went to the local water authority, spoke with their chief operating officer, who in turn they all contacted myself and Representative Mandisha Thomas. And I am leaving this high schooler's name out of this because I actually don't have permission at this time to use his name, although I don't think he'd have a problem with it, nor his parents. But since I don't, I am going to leave their name out of it. Anyway, so he's been researching this. They've come to us. The local authority has said that there is some significant costs that they have, mainly in repairs that the fluoride does It does cause some issues within their system that they're constantly having to repair due to it. And so really what I decided to drop the bill was really to get a conversation going, which is why I appreciate this hearing. It's a conversation I don't think that's been had in a long time. And yet we've heard from constituents through the years. I mean, I'm in my 8th year, and I've seen things out there on people that have concerns about fluoride and how it's being put in mass production into our water system. And so I just thought we really needed to revisit this and just have a conversation about it. So getting into the bill, years ago, we gave the Board of Natural Resources the ability to require by regulation fluoridation of public water. And so simply we're removing that. We're taking it back to the locals and letting them decide if they want to do that or not. Now, one thing I didn't know until I dropped the bill, I actually didn't realize there was a way for them to do a referendum on it locally. So again, I think that's something that is a potential remedy here. If this child wants to get up the 10% of the registered voters, although I think 10% might be a little bit high. So maybe we revisit that number. But there's things within the law, you're only allowed to do 1 part per million. So, my question is, if we're only doing, if it's so good for you, then why not 2 parts per million or 3 parts per million? Why is there a limit on that? Is that maybe it's cost? I don't know the answers. Again, this is just a subject that hasn't been visited in my 8 years. So these are questions I have. We do say that any person who is deemed allergic to fluoridated water, that they can get a device to remove that fluoride, and it's the cost of the device is tax deductible. So my next question is, how many people are allergic to it? Again, these are just answers to questions we don't have, and if we don't have a dialogue about it, we're never going to get those answers. And so that was the reason I dropped this bill. Again, Mr. Chairman, I do appreciate you taking the time to hear this bill, and really look forward to hearing from those that would be for or against this. Just I would like to have a conversation about it. I'll be happy to take questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Mr. Chairman, for bringing this conversation forward.
Thank you.
I try to stay open-minded, even if I'm initially like, oh, I don't know about this. But our water has been fluorinated for like 75 years, according to what, and I, to my knowledge, have not heard such health concerns in those 75 years because there's been more added
You
benefits.
don't look that old.
Well, at least I'm not going to tell my age, but anyway. But it's been proven that it has more added benefits to our dental health, and many people just can't even afford dental health as it is, or going to the dentist is very expensive. And it's been recommended by all of our public health organizations and dental organizations. We're talking American Dental, American Pediatrics, U.S. Public Health, and WHO. So my question is, why would we not be using their guidelines and their guidance on fluoride treatment? And maybe it's a conversation of way to test levels. Mm-hmm. But we do know it's been working as far as what our health professionals have been telling us as far as tooth decay and health, combating that. So, yeah, that's my question.
Well, yeah, and I go back to, number one, science changes. We learned that during the pandemic. Science changed every single day. We were told to trust the science, and then the next day the science was different. Mm-hmm. And so we didn't know what to trust. So we live in a world now where we all question science on a daily basis. And so, you know, again, in 75 years, I don't know when the last time this conversation was had. And so that is why I'm bringing forward these questions, and I'm doing it in the form of a bill. But that, which is why we're doing hearing only, was just to have the conversation. But, you know, again, science has changed. Some of it's antiquated. And I'm not saying what they have said is, but I'm saying we need to look at it. I think we have a duty to our citizens to make sure that we are questioning science and making sure that it is up to date, because it may not be. And I feel like that's our civic duty to the people that we serve.
And Mr. Chairman, you bring it up, that's an excellent point, and maybe that's something at the state we should look at as maybe as testing levels, or trying to figure out testing levels, rather than like, we just want to eliminate it totally.
Right.
Let's figure, because we're just this whole thing about PFAS now.
Well, this doesn't.
We're
To be clear, this does not eliminate.
It doesn't eliminate it totally.
This doesn't. It kicks it back down to local control.
Okay.
To where they could eliminate it should they want to.
Okay.
That's all it does. And again, I mean, I want to back up to your question on that, you know, questioning those professionals. You know, again, I asked the question, okay, well, if it's so good for us, then why are we limiting it to one part per million? And I don't know the answer to that. And that's, I mean, I'd love to get an answer for that.
And maybe we can bring someone from the CDC to come and talk to us about it, and maybe give us some more guidelines on what is modern.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Great
Senator
question.
Goodman?
Chairman, just a quick question. Do you know if bottled water, because I know nowadays, you know, most people, at least in our house, they drink more bottled water than they do tap water. Is bottled water fluorinated, or are we requiring bottled water to be fluorinated?
I don't know the answer to that. I have no idea.
I have some answer to that.
I know, like, we have a water bottling plant in our district, in my home county, and they take their water comes from the city water system. So that water is fluoridated.
Same for
Right.
county,
Yeah.
Gwinnett County water, and Publix actually markets Gwinnett County water.
So I guess all this water, you know, this spring water, fresh spring water we're drinking, it came out of a spring at some time, maybe 100 years ago. Who knows?
Senator Ramon?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for, I'm glad that this is not voting at the hearing to ask all these questions. I missed something, you said some Belgium something, is it?
Yeah.
Or the
No, so the actual fluoride that is being used in Coweta County, let me be specific, Coweta County Water Authority uses a company out of Belgium called Prayon. And to my knowledge, Belgium doesn't even require fluoride in their own water. So we're buying fluoride from a country that doesn't even require it.
just want to make sure it's not anti-fluoride or anti-Belgian.
Right.
We have a young lady that's signed up to speak on this
I wonder who.
bill. I think she's no stranger to this group, but Mrs. Robinson.
She's
would
no
you
stranger
come
to me either.
forward, please.
You want me to leave? All right. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I like this. Watch this.
Do you?
Showtime.
We used to work together.
I know.
We still work together.
We do.
We do.
Just not on this.
Not on this.
State your name, Ms. Robinson.
I'm
And who
Teresa
you with?
Garcia. I'm Teresa Garcia Robertson. I am Vice President of Government and Regulatory Affairs for the Georgia Dental Association. We are so happy to also be having this conversation and have the opportunity to talk to the committee and educate the committee on the benefits of fluoride and the over 70 years of research that has been done that shows that fluoride in community water supplies is safe. And just like we take vitamins, and it's not necessarily the total amount of what you need throughout the day because you might get it from other sources. You only go to the dentist twice a year, you get your teeth cleaned, and you have fluoride treatments put on your teeth twice a year to help with that. And then you have fluoride in your drinking water. And over 73% of Americans get fluoride in their drinking water. Without regular access to dental care from those Americans, for those Georgians who don't have the opportunity or the resources to go to the dentist, fluoride in your water by simply drinking water, whether you're at work or at school or at home, it helps reduce tooth decay by 25%. And that's all you've done is drink water. So water that's been fortified with fluoride is very similar to fortifying salt with iodine, milk with vitamin D, and orange juice with vitamin C, and none of those are medications. So the American Dental Association and the Georgia Dental Association all very much support regulating the fluoride that is in our water, and we would love to help continue this conversation.
Thank you, ma'am. We, as I said, this is just a hearing only, and we're gonna, as the chairman wants to pursue it, if you want to have another hearing on it later on and have some more people testify, we'll be glad to do that for you.
Right.
But at this time, this hearing is over.
All right. Nothing to be said then. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. We got another bill, Senator. Yeah. All right. Going to House Bill 43, Representative Lim.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to this committee. You may recall this bill, it's the third bill today that...
Give us the LC number.
Yes. Could someone give that for me?
Did we catch it?
I apologize for that. I don't have all my papers clearly. It is LC 442156. It is HB 43. It's exactly the bill that was voted out of this committee as two of the other bills were. I believe we were actually voted out the same day. Ended up on the rules calendar, just getting tabled like the other two. But to refresh, HB 43, which is at the request of the Council on American Indian Concerns and our 3 state-recognized tribes, which is under our state's Department of Natural Resources, provides necessary updates to the addresses for those tribes so they can properly be found. It also codifies the practice of ensuring that the council always has representation from each of the tribes, which is already occurring. This passed out of the House unanimously as well, both in 2022 and 2023. I do also want to recognize, as we recognized last year, both on the House side and in this committee, that there are others that wish to be recognized as tribes. Now, that is a separate process, and last year, no groups opposed this legislation because in a bipartisan manner, myself, and in particular, I really want to give credit to Representative Will Wade, who represents the area in Dahlonega where the Georgia Tribe of Eastern Cherokee are located. We've committed to any groups that want to provide support and help with the resources, and since then we have done exactly that, helping secure, and again I give credit to Representative Wade, the resources of the University of Georgia for that particular group that wishes to be recognized as Chickamauga to put forth additional artifacts and historical documents so that they may positively get redetermination to go through the council before becoming legislation that then becomes before the General Assembly. Again, very supportive of that process. For now, I'd ask that this committee pass this bill as requested by our current 3 tribes, of which the representatives from, I believe, all of them are here today, and I would encourage you all to speak with them after this committee. Very important groups there. I'm very happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for bringing this bill. Like he says, this bill passed out last year, and it just didn't get through the finish line. But thank you for bringing it back up. And if it is another tribe that would like to be on the list, then they got to go through the process. Simple as that. All right, Senator Merritt,
Mr. Chairman, at the appropriate time, I'd like to make a motion.
it's appropriate time.
Motion do pass.
Got a second? All in favor, raise your right hand. Like you hit a home run. Congratulations.
You're so hard, Marvin.
Thank you. All right. At this time, do I have a motion to adjourn? Do I have a second? Second. All in favor, rise.